with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. It is Friday, TGIF, however you want to call it here, James. We have a weird split slate situation going on here in the NBA tonight. If you play on DraftKings, you have a 6-game main slate starting at 7:30 Eastern time, goes all the way to the 8 p.m. games. If you are over on FanDuel, they gave you the full 10 games, including the 10 p.m. slate. If you're on DraftKings, you can then play the 4-game 10 p.m. slate that they have out there as well. So a lot of different options for you today, depending on where you play your DFS. But either way, it kicks off at 7:30. So you have a little later start time for tonight's slate, which is fine because there's a lot of news to get to. If you are on the late slate tonight, we got the Jamal Murray ruled out here for tonight for Denver. Again, so if you're playing the 10 p.m. slate, you got to take that into consideration. Some Reggie Jackson time. There's more injury news that we're waiting for here today. We should have been more aware that we didn't get the let him know tweet during our show.
I thought about that also today. That was a misstop. And also I didn't mention it on the podcast either that it was a misstop because that's our bad. We're hand up, our bad.
For someone who has push notifications turned on specifically for the let them know tweet, the fact that I never got the let them know and it never registered until we were scrambling at like 6:30 to throw Garland in our lineups, which was fine. It worked out 18 and 10, it was flames across the board. Now we're on let them know watch for tonight. So we got to see whether or not that he is in there or not. Otherwise, we got Darius Garland and Cleveland here on a back-to-back. A lot of teams are on a back-to-back here as well, including some of our favorites like San Antonio and OKC, where they're going to play 15 guys probably or 8. So we won't know until the game starts out here. James, you were on the playbook today, so talk to me about some of your favorite matchups for tonight.
Oh yeah, 14 teams on a back-to-back.
Yeah,
that's the second leg. Second leg of a back-to-back.
Yeah.
So the best matchups on the board: Toronto, Atlanta. No surprise there. Slate high 245.5, 7.5 point spread. That's the best game environment on the board. Washington OKC is a little bit interesting. If Washington could obviously keep that game competitive, they did the previous matchup that was in Washington. This is not in Washington, but 241.5 total, 15.5 point spread. Obviously, things in Phoenix got a little more interesting today. Like we expected Bradley Beal to be out, John. Nurkic rolled his ankle last night, and I don't know if that was the direct reason why they didn't play he didn't play in the fourth quarter, but like he didn't play a single minute in the fourth quarter. They just went straight Durant at the 5.
Yeah, got Royce O'Neal time in that game.
And big Royce O'Neal time, and we'll talk about Royce O'Neal's ownership in just a little bit because it is a hefty number. We were in on Royce O'Neal before it was cool.
We were 4,100.
Just to let everyone know. But that is obviously an interesting game. 233.5. That line has moved upwards 2.5 points. Phoenix still 3.5 point road favorites with how bad Houston's been lately. But I think that game obviously is super appealing. If you're playing the late night window, Charlotte news came not too long ago. LaMelo Ball not playing, so status quo there for the 4-0 Charlotte Hornets in the Grant Williams era. This isn't LaMelo Ball's team anymore. He is not the captain now. It's Grant Williams.
Man knocked down 6 threes last night.
He sure did. Thanks to Grant Williams, I made some money. And then San Antonio Lakers. Yeah, San Antonio Lakers, 240.5 in the FanDuel window. Little weird. It's like a weird slate to talk about.
Anthony Davis midday questionable too in that game.
Yeah.
LeBron will play. Already came out and said will play Friday. Now AD popping up Q.
Yeah. There was a comment from Darvin Ham last night, and I guess this is something to watch if AD plays. He lost his voice and he couldn't talk, so his defensive communication was 0, and that's the Lakers got torched by the Golden State Warriors. Just throwing it out there. Maybe if AD can't talk, how's he
You
going
know,
to
you know what else caused them to get torched by the Warriors? Steph hitting like 9 threes.
That also
Didn't help the case.
Yes, that's correct. But yeah, I would say DraftKings main slate, Toronto, Atlanta, Phoenix, Houston are your two primary games you're looking at, and then there's obviously the late night windows, quite interesting as well. And if anyone has FanDuel questions, like please ask, because obviously there are 4 games on the FanDuel slate that are not on the DraftKings slate. So
Right.
I have FanDuel open. We have the ownership available at fantasyalarm.com right now if you want to take a look.
Addressing a FanDuel or 10 p.m. DraftKings slate question,
Sure.
is Jokic become a priority without Jamal Murray here tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he's 2.0 fantasy points per hit without Jamal Murray this year. Portland is beat up. They are down a lot of main bodies. And so, yeah.
Nikola Jokic coming off the first ever 15-15-15 triple-double with a 100% shooting percentage.
Didn't miss a free throw. It's a flawed stat. It's a flawed first ever, just saying.
Okay.
Just kidding. I'm kidding. I mean, I said it to you while it was going on. I was like, is Jokic about to go?
Well, he was 3 for 3 when we started. We're like, this is a weird Jokic game. He's not shooting, and then 15-15-15, as only he can do here. So
shout out the Wizards.
Exactly. Let's take a look at the slate again, guys. As we mentioned, if you have any questions on games that aren't on the DraftKings main slate, don't be shy. Throw them in the chat. I'd be more than happy to help you guys out, including on FanDuel. I got a little money over on FanDuel after last night, so I'll certainly be building some lines there. So don't be shy. Fire away with your questions. Thoughts on DeAndre Hunter here for our guy OS. And again, we usually go position by position, but since we're starting the show off, I'll hit these cues now. I mean, listen, we obviously are looking at Toronto, Atlanta on the main slate.
Yep.
They're relatively healthy. They're getting Clint Capella back tonight. He's going to be on a minutes limit. So that wing rotation is, it's where it is. Do they have Sadiq Bey back yet, or is he still out?
Everyone but it's basically Okongwu is out, and then Capella's limited, and then like the only other injuries they have are like secondary.
How limited do you think Capella is limited? Because he's a man that only generally plays 22 to 24 minutes anyways.
Yeah, that's what I said on the
play 15, or does he just play his usual minutes?
That's what I said on the pod. I was like, I mean, I don't know what the limit is because he's typically limited to begin with.
Right.
Low 20s.
Okay. Because his rebound prop's at 8.5 tonight. It is a guy that's averaging 10 rebounds per game in 25 minutes. So, like, I mean, it's definitely limited.
17, 18 minutes.
Does he go? Then do we take the under 8.5? I mean, something to I haven't decided where I want to go with that one yet. But DeAndre Hunter is fine. He's going to play. He's going to shoot.
I do think there is a chance that Atlanta changes up something in their lineup.
They go Jalen Johnson at the 5. You think it's something like that?
No, I think we could see what they were doing earlier in the year. And that was DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Johnson starting, and Sadiq Bey coming off the bench. I maybe, and that could be just me guessing, but we saw Hunter get up to like full minutes before the break, and he's another guy who just lost his starting job to injury, right? Like he was starting all year. So just a thought. 4,900 is a really great price in that game environment. So
sure, and we do see teams sometimes coming out of the All-Star break and they shift things around here, so I certainly could see that.
We saw it last night. Utah.
Favorite FanDuel stud? I guess that could probably be overall on tonight's slate. You got a number one play. Yesterday we gave you Tyrese Halliburton. I'd say that one worked out well for you, DePrince. I think he was like the 3rd highest scoring player on the slate. I mean, Luka blew everybody out by like 30 points. But what are your thoughts?
Jokic almost caught him. Jokic had 66.
Jokic wasn't on the main slate though, was he? On FanDuel?
Yeah, he was on the main slate.
Oh yeah, he was. You're right. You're right.
Slate. I'll say Jokic. If you can't get to a 12K Jokic, I really like Wemby 10-4. Especially if there's no AD. Even if there is, the ceiling is crazy.
If there's no AD, I almost would consider pivoting to LeBron.
Yeah, and then LeBron. Given there's obviously like a little uncertainty about the ankle, but it seems if he's gonna go, it's gonna be full capacity. So if there's no AD, LeBron as
All right, let's get into the DraftKings main slate here. Again, if you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. If you haven't already liked today's show, please do so. Certainly helps us out. Toss some questions out there. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, become one of the 6,000 subscribers that we have as we continue to march our way towards 10K here. We go live every day at 5 o'clock Eastern time, so your support is greatly appreciated. Point guard position, SGA is your top price guy at 10.9. You got Booker at 96, Donnie Mitch questionable 95, Trey at 94, Maxey at 91. That's your 9K and above grouping here. Where are we targeting, if anybody, in this group?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if SGA obviously if Washington can keep it close, SGA has an insane ceiling. 11K or nearly 11K. Is probably appropriately priced. This is the first time he's hit this number all year. And it's a really good matchup, but like this is where he should probably be priced moving forward. It shouldn't be the low 10s anymore. Yeah. But he definitely could have a ceiling. Love Devin Booker, sans Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic. He was great yesterday. The minutes, not many teams have a Phoenix Suns rotation. I mean, they played like 7 guys yesterday, and now one of the 7 is not there, right? Like Yusuf Nurkic is not all but out. So love the minutes from Booker, 9,600. Houston's defense obviously has fallen by the wayside. Dylan Brooks is what Dylan Brooks is.
Yeah, I mean Brooks will be the one on Booker in this game. So
he will. Also could see that playing out poorly for Dylan Brooks in terms of like if Devin Booker's attacking, we've had multiple 10 plus free throw games, like Brooks is going to get cooked. So I'm good with Devin Booker. Donnie Mitch, if he lets us know, then I'm definitely in on him. We've talked about Philly pretty extensively, how bad defensively they've been.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they really get any better with DeAnthony Melton. And plus, we don't know what the 5th starter is going to be. If Nick Batum plays, Nick Nurse came out and said that Nick Batum is one of 4 starters that are guaranteed. And then there's going to be a rotating spot between Oubre, Melton, and Buddy Hield is the 5th starter spot. It's a rotating door. So whoever's playing the best is their 5th starter per Nick Nurse.
It'd be wild if they just start pulling Hield off the floor.
But I expect Hield to stay on the floor, but like that's just what Nick Nurse said. I mean, Batum in that situation, Batum's just a placeholder, right? Like he plays his 18 minutes and then
they sub out.
Yeah, they sub him out. He doesn't close. So I'd be okay with getting to Mitchell. I love Trae Young today. He's in a little bit of a shooting slump going into the break. He did not really shoot the ball all too well. 37, 21, and 33% the 3 games prior. But John, we talked about this earlier in the year, like really early on. Was in a shooting slump. The price kept lowering, and the field was playing DeJounte Murray. And I was like, dude, I'm going to just hammer Trae Young every slate because as good as DeJounte Murray is, like this is Trae Young's team. Like he is.
Yeah, it's around this range here, right? He's 91, 9K, 89. And all of a sudden he starts popping off for 50, 60 fantasy points.
Yeah, and like he has that in the bag. I mean, he's 2nd in the league in assists while averaging nearly 27 points per game. He's at a steal and a half, which I think is very impressive. Like there's not a lot of downside to getting Trae Young. This is 2 teams that are top 10 in pace. We've known about Toronto's deficiencies defensively since the OG Anunoby trade. So
averaging 62 fantasy points in 3 games against them.
Dude, it's just a really elite spot for Trae Young. And he's averaging 62 and he's coming off a game where he went 9 for 24 from the floor. Like there's just a lot to like about Trae Young. He had 38 actual in a game against them earlier in the year. I don't see where the third meeting...
They played a back-to-back.
Oh, back-to-back. Okay, 35 and 38. Okay, so yeah, pretty good.
35 and 17, followed right up with a 38 and 11. So
yeah, it's just a great price. It's a great matchup. Atlanta's one of the few teams not playing on a back-to-back. So give me Trae Young in
their
home
format.
And they're home. And they're home.
Agreed. Mid-tier range here, guys under 9K. James Harden, DeJounte is in that group. McCollum last night, again, with no Ingram, we saw what his upside can be. Hero, and then Immanuel Quickley, I know, is somebody that you are high on for this evening.
Yeah, not a lot of interest in the Clippers. not to say not any of them can go off, but it's hard to peg who's going to be the guy on a nightly basis. Coming off a tough game last night, I expect them to have a big bounce back against Memphis. I'm not sure how competitive that game's going to be, but not like a ton of interest outside of a value play we'll talk about later. I obviously it's hard to talk about the Pelicans because Ingram and Zion both popped on the injury report, and we have no idea what they're going to do, right? Zion has played back-to-backs, has been cleared to play back-to-backs, but hasn't since January. So, he's been sitting out recent back-to-backs. And you and I said it on yesterday's show, was not on the injury report whatsoever yesterday, right? Not even a sniff. But now he's on the injury report today. And now Ingram has an illness. It's impossible to predict an illness. Yeah. Same thing with Donovan Mitchell. Impossible to predict if Donovan Mitchell is going to play unless he tweets it.
That's it. If he doesn't tweet to let him know, and it's a 7:30 game, so we'll know ahead of time. He probably should have tweeted it already, honestly.
Yeah, about 2 hours.
Yeah.
If not,
by the end of this show, we don't get to let him know. I'm assuming he's not playing.
Well, we got it. You messaged me. I was walking away from my computer for a second, and I saw the message from you in all caps, Donovan Mitchell out. So it did happen right after the show. So, on the Pelicans front, if McCollum is alone, obviously that's appealing. There's obvious reason to like some New Orleans backcourt members, especially if Hero plays, because their starting backcourt could look like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. That's appealing for matchups against them. But I do like Immanuel Quickley a lot. They downgraded RJ Barrett in the middle of the day and on the second leg of a back-to-back. He's averaging over a fantasy point per minute with Toronto, 22% usage rate with Toronto. And this is as good of a matchup as you get for anybody on the board.
I just got to say, I'm scrolling through the Donnie Mitch timeline here right now. He's usually tweeted it out around 4:30 to let him know if he's playing or not.
I wonder if is that just across the board?
I'm scrolling through all the let him knows because he, there's a run of here where he pretty much only had let him know tweets. The latest I saw was 5:45, and that could have been for a later game.
What was the date? What was the date on that game?
February 3rd.
Let's see who they played. They played in San Antonio, so it was a Midwest game, probably 8 o'clock start, right?
Yeah,
San Antonio is usually 8:30.
Yeah. So, they're home-ish. Well, they're Philly. They're on the road, but East Coast.
7:30 game.
We should have probably gotten to let them know. If we don't get to let them know by the end of the show, I'm assuming Donovan Mitchell isn't playing tonight.
Well, that just brings us to his backcourt mate, who's again probably
40 fantasy points last night. What was his rostership on DraftKings? On FanDuel, he was 50%.
He wasn't. I'll pull it up. It was somewhere around that in single entry at least. He was. I'll pull it up. He helped me have a very good lineup last night.
He got off to a slow start, no doubt about it. But
he was horrible in the first half. His first half was horrible. His second half was great. He was actually, I lied. He was 68% in single entries last night.
Yeah. Because I had taken the over 7.5 assists on him, and he had 2 at halftime. I was like, oh boy, this is not going well for me. And then he finished with 10. So I would run right back to the well. Dude, he is not a 60. If he's a solo guard, he is not. This dude's a 7,500 8K player.
8K player. We said that. I think we said that a lot last year. It was it's an 8K. I'd pay an 8K price tag for Darius Garland.
And we saw some of these numbers earlier this year when Mitchell was out. He had 55, 41.
Yep.
He can break Slate to 63. If we don't get that let him know tweet, I have no problem plugging him right back into the lineup tonight for me. So, where else are we taking a look? 6K and under. Anybody for you particularly popping off? Does Jordan Goodwin become a play for you here tonight?
So this is his last day of his 10-day.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder if they're gonna start him and give him another look, right? Because they're obviously shorthanded. They're without Scottie Pippen.
They've won both games he's played.
They've won both games he's played. You don't know if they want to do that, but they have. So if he were. It would have to be a scenario where he's starting for me because if he's coming off the bench, I'm a little scared because they do have Gilliard and Rose available today. So they have this is the healthiest their point guard room's been all year. Jacob Gilliard and Derrick Rose and Jordan Goodwin.
Not great.
So not great, but I will just circle quick back to Tyus Jones, who's been on like an insane assist heater, John. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like again, it's obviously an extremely tough spot, right? Over the last 10 games, here are the leaders in the NBA in potential assists. Are you ready? You ready?
I'm listening.
Okay. Trae Young, 17.8. That's the end of the list that's above Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones averaging 17 and a half potential assists per game on the year. That's the second most, or over the last 10 games. That's the second most in the NBA.
Deal officially ruled out. So
yeah, and we're gonna get the Nurkic news, I'm sure, right behind it as well. Hopefully. They were a package deal before. So I assume I guess it's not coming yet. So maybe not. But I would take a shot on Tyus Jones. His fantasy production has been amazing. 38, 43, 46, 46, 36, 33 fantasy points in the last 6 games in a game with a 240 total. So the only other guy in that tier I would mention is Tyus Jones. He is actually getting some ownership tonight, which I found a little bit surprising.
Sure.
And also, only reason I circle back to him, I have nothing else at point guard. I have no interest in a singular value point guard on DraftKings. Like Reggie Jackson's there on FanDuel. That's the obvious play, 5,300. There is not a single player on DraftKings that I'm even almost acknowledging, unless we get Pelicans news, because Jose Alvarado had another 20 minutes last night and was really, really good again. He's actually been like firmly in their rotation again. He's usurped Hawkins a little bit. And obviously Dyson Daniels going down helps both of them because Hawkins did play. But Alvarado's been really, really good. If there's like injury news, we've seen McCollum for the first 8 years of his career play shooting guard.
Yeah.
So like you can see a scenario where Alvarado and McCollum are on the
Agreed. Moving on over to shooting again. A lot of these guys we've talked about already. At point guard, do the dual positional eligibility here. We're definitely in on Booker. If Ingram plays, maybe Paul George. You said you're not really in on much of the Clippers here. You have DeJounte at 75, Hero, Jalen Green, Vince Williams at 7K range. I looked at this tier and I don't know. I just kind of just shrugged. I didn't, not my favorite spots, price wise for these guys.
Agreed. If you're gonna like use anybody, it's Booker or Mitchell, who we've already talked about. Obviously, Ingram is interesting. And I want to get to Hassan's point in a second because he is making his debut for Miami today. He's available, and obviously the Hero news is a little contingent. We can talk about what Miami's going to do, but like if Ingram plays and Zion doesn't, obviously we're like interested in Brandon Ingram like that. But like another situation, just hard to talk about.
If they both sit out, you got Herbie and Murphy just like locked into big minutes.
You could, I mean, there's a world where you're playing 4 Pelicans on the slate just because that you're taking off their 2 top scorers and there's so much production to go around. So Ingram, obviously, Paul George is fine. The minutes were great last night, but if you get there, you get there. Is good position eligibility. DeJounte is in a good spot, but he's a secondary play to Trae. I know he's like $2,000 cheaper, and it's a great. You can obviously get there if you want. But I've just leaned Trae Young. Yeah. But if you want to get the DeJounte Murray, again, by all means. Hero, in this spot, especially with like what is on the other side of this game for him. Jalen Green, wouldn't be surprised if he's like the first one benched today, like in moving forward for Amen Thompson, right? Like Amen Thompson's coming for
Jalen Green's job. Is one that his point prop tonight is at 8.5.
Yeah,
and he played 28 minutes last night. Obviously, some of that was probably blowout aided.
Yes,
but like that's 8.5 is kind of low. He's pretty good. I mean, Phoenix isn't a great defensive team.
They're not. It's more. I would not play him in. Just for the record, I would not play him on DraftKings.
No, too expensive.
But I would definitely consider his props because he is going. I'm I really think, like, I was not exaggerating. I think he's going to take Jalen Green's shot by the end.
Which is wild for a guy that was second overall 2 years ago.
I mean, dude, but like Jalen Green was falling out of the rotation,
Yeah.
if you don't remember. And then people got hurt, and he just like started playing well.
Why do they give Dylan Brooks all that money? You know,
They did give Dylan
forcing them to play him. With this being a 6-game slate, obviously on DraftKings, like the depth just jumps off pretty quick. With no Bradley Beal now, you do have Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon that are down here in this range. If guys are out for Miami, Duncan Robinson's $4,900. Can certainly run back to that. Cam Whitmore, if you think this game doesn't stay close, I mean, Whitmore got out there 5 of 11, 2 of 8 from 3, but you know he's going to shoot a lot of threes. For some value here. Where else are you looking?
Yeah, the Phoenix guys were the ones that stood out to me the most. Obviously, you could play Strus if there's no Donovan Mitchell. He was really good last night, 4,900, 7 for 10 from the floor. He's a secondary playmaker. Same thing with Karis LeVert. You can go to LeVert if there's no Mitchell. He played 27 minutes last night. Wasn't any good, but 5,300 is a good price for LeVert too. Other than the guys you mentioned, the only other name I'd really throw out there would be Gary Trent. He played 31 minutes in last night's blowout win. You just know what it is with Gary Trent. He is going to play, and if he makes shots, he's going to stay on the floor. And if he doesn't make shots, there's a chance he gets taken off the floor. So $4,300 Gary Trent in the best game environment on the board is something that I am good with.
Yeah, you got minutes at Koulibaly, didn't do anything with those.
He's really popular, and it's something that I'm just kind of taking a stand on. Just like not a lot there. There's just not a lot of meat on the bone for Koulibaly. Like he started, played 32 minutes, great. I see you keep flashing Zaire Williams.
I'm just reading his thing. He had 2 guys out for that game, so
there were no
10 guys out for that game.
They had 8 active body game. I know you have a soft spot for Zaire Williams.
Well, somebody on Memphis has to play. Does Kennard get a revenge game against the Clippers tonight? I mean,
I think like this is the healthiest they've kind of been in a while, and they're not really priced like they don't have soft pricing anymore. Like Kennard is fine. I don't hate the 4,800, but do they want to split up the minutes with him and Zaire? And do they want to play Vince at the 2?
Mm-hmm.
And like, how are they going to continue to give Lamar Stevens and Gigi Jackson a bunch of run, which pushes guys out? Like, it's just a really messy situation. I'm just kind of full avoiding Memphis and living with the consequences if they have anyone.
Let's move on over to small forward here. We got Scotty Barnes. Kawhi's at $8,700. Toby at $78. Jimmy Buckets at $77. Of the guys we haven't yet mentioned. I mean, Butler at $77 is a pretty good price tag for him.
So I mentioned that on the pod last night, and he has been apparently working out, staying in shape through the tragedy that he's faced, him and his family. My one problem is that Herb Jones is coming off a game where he had 7 steals. Sure. And I mean, we know who's guarding. Like, we know Herb is guarding Jimmy Butler, right? Like, he is following Jimmy Butler around the floor everywhere. And he might just follow Jimmy Butler to the bench, into the locker room, after the game, to his house. Like, there's a chance Herb Jones just is in Jimmy Butler's nightmares.
7 steals is hilarious.
Dude, he has.
He had 5 2 games prior to that. I mean,
there's a lot of good things. Like, the price is obviously really, really good for Jimmy Butler. He had 2 really good games. 4 of his last 5 overall have been really good. There might not be Tyler Hero. Like, could be another situation where the offense is where Jimmy is running like point forward, right? Like we've seen that plenty. I mean, the last 2 games, 19 assists combined. So like, there's a lot to like about it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Just knowing that Herb Jones is on the other side of this matchup might not matter, might matter a lot, because Herb Jones is like upper echelon, probably first team, should be first team all defense. I do, just to circle back to Scotty Barnes, have a lot of interest in Scotty Barnes. He's looked really, really good of late, kind of after that lull, right? He had that like lull where it was like, he's not doing a lot. He had a bad game against San Antonio, sure. The 4 games surrounding that have been really good. The peripheral stats have been like back to where they were in the start of the year when they weren't moving his price tag at all. And we were like, all right, well, we'll just keep playing Scotty Barnes for like $2,000 cheaper than he should be. And now he's scoring again.
Right.
Like 3 of the last 4 games, he's had 18 plus actual. We know he's a menace defensively as well. So I do have some interest in Scotty Barnes. I think this could be a potential stealing game. If you're starting lineups like Trae Young, Scotty Barnes in a game with 246 implied points, like that feels pretty good. 2 guys that can just go out and give you 60, and you're starting with 120 points in your lineups. Like, not too bad. Obviously, you're finding value around that, but like pretty good start, I'd say, with those.
Sure, no arguments. Again, he's had a lot of success against Atlanta on the year. If we're looking under 7K, again, a lot of these guys we've talked about already. Anybody in particular that stands out to you that you're looking to target, or is it just kind of more of the same with the dual positional eligibility these guys have?
Yeah, nothing outside of Barnes and Butler really. Like you mentioned the Grayson Allen thing. I like Grayson Allen. We've talked about DeAndre Hunter. Obviously, TBD on Trey Murphy / Herb Jones.
Yeah.
If one of Zion or Ingram sit, like it's easy. Trey Murphy's going to start,
Yeah.
and then Herb and Trey Murphy become incrementally more valuable in terms of DFS. So you can play either of them. Strus, same thing. I expect the Heat to start Duncan Robinson again. If you want to go to Duncan Robinson, 4,900. It's really the next name I'd get to is Royce O'Neal, who we talked about at the top of the show. $4,100. $4,100 yesterday. 1 rebound shy of a double-double. He played the 11 straight minutes in the fourth quarter. And this is something that you and I talked about when they first acquired him. I thought they were going to go small.
Yeah.
They have gone small. They really, unless they want to extend Drew Eubanks and maybe play Thad Young, like dust off Thad Young tonight, then they're just going to go small again. Like I see a scenario where Eubanks starts or Thad Young. Maybe we even see Thad start in this situation, one of the two, and then they just go small for the rest of the game, right? Because like that probably takes Şengün off the floor because Şengün ain't chasing Kevin Durant out to the perimeter or like anyone of that ilk.
Sure.
So I think Royce O'Neal's in another great spot. Definitely doesn't hurt him to have Yusuf Nurkic.
No, he stayed at $4,100, where he's given you in his 3 games, or given you in the games where he's played with them, 6-7x return on that price tag. So I'm with you. I like that. And the early double. I thought he was going to get the double last night. He had 9 rebounds for a while, and he just never got there. So,
dude, and it's really hard to like not see like the threes are what's standing out. Like he's taken a lot of threes, which they signed him for. Like, or they traded for, like 3-and-D. But like, if he's 4 for 8 last night, I mean, we're talking about a guy who has 33 fantasy points and is breaking the slate.
Sure.
And if he makes a couple more, that game's probably more competitive too. So,
and still went for 6x as it is. So
right, and still went for 6x, right? And he was 5% rostered last night. I just looked when I was looking at my roster because I played Royce. He is not 5% projected tonight. According to our update, he is the highest rostered projected player on DraftKings at 33%. So it's not a surprise to see Royce O'Neal getting love, but it is worth mentioning. Also worth mentioning, Isaac Okoro will probably start again if Donovan Mitchell's, if he doesn't let us know. Okoro played 30 minutes, made all of his shots last night. He's 35.
Sure.
Minutes, so.
All right, let's go on over to power forward. We have Durant at 97. I think he was 10K yesterday, wasn't it? 97 today, a little price decrease here. Triple J's at 8K, Zion 79. Again, guys, we're waiting on the statuses of Kuzma. Had a nice game yesterday. We got Jalen Johnson in a great spot here. Evan Mobley at 7K. I know I like a little price bump up for him. Where are you at power forward tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Durant just missed shots last night. He also only had 1 assist, which is very unlike Kevin Durant. So I expect to bounce back. He was really hard on himself in that post-game presser where he just said, I make a lot of money. I need to make shots. Like, I had no excuses. So he also had that little tiff. I don't know if you saw that before the game. Hilarious altercation with a fan who his wife, like, called him a bum. And then Kevin Durant approached him, and the guys, they were trying to dap him up. I don't know if you saw it. No. And then he said, and then you hear the audio of the guy in the stand saying, Kevin, I have a sports podcast. And then Durant walks away. Very funny back and forth between Durant and the fans, but love Durant at 97 in a bounce back spot. I'd be perfectly fine playing Zion. Again, the minutes were tremendous last night. And we were talking about it because last night, like, why did they put Zion back in that game?
They put all their starters back in that game.
Right. And there was, and I think it was definitely to leave the door open for Zion to sit because he hasn't played the back-to-backs. But if he does play, I have no problem getting to Zion. He's been a matchup nightmare for everybody with him handling the ball so much. Love him. No on Toby. No thanks, at least. The role doesn't look great. Kuzma coming off a monster game. If they're going to keep it competitive, Kuzma is obviously going to be a factor into why. Don't think 31 actual from Kuzma is a coincidence with Jordan Poole moving to the bench. Like, a lot more shot attempts open up with that starting unit. With Tyus Jones swishing and dishing, and Jalen Johnson, great play, 7,300. He's been really consistent lately. Jalen Williams getting a lot of ownership. He's been really consistent lately. So, and Evan Mobley, 7K. How can you not like it? The minutes were all the way back. The peripherals were all the way back.
6 assists last night.
Dude, he's just like that. The assists are obviously a little bit of an anomaly, but also like Evan Mobley's averaging double-figure rebounds on the year. So like we can get the double-digit bonus, right? Or the double-double bonus. And he only took 9 shots. There's games where Evan Mobley takes like mid-teens in shots. So there's a lot of balancing out there. I love it.
Capella will be limited to around 20 minutes, so close to what he normally plays.
So here's what I think. Maybe like 20 minutes Capella, 18 to 20 Fernando, and then like 8 minutes to Jalen Johnson at center.
Sure.
That seem like likely. I mean, do you think Fernando touches 20?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then we're getting more than we get more than 20. Then we get more than 8 minutes.
Maybe 18. Yeah, maybe he gets like 18 or so. Where else we go into the mid tier for power forward tonight? Anybody of mid or value for you on this slate?
I'm happy you said it or value because mid tier is.
I said it or value because I saw the mid tier.
Wasteland.
It was like 3 guys, and we just moved forward.
There's like nothing that we haven't necessarily mentioned. Kelly Olynyk is obviously a tournament play. He's a really good fantasy point per minute guy. Same thing can be said about Bruce Brown, 24 minutes, 25, 26, 31 minutes, last 3 games for Bruce Brown. Like, minutes are fine, matchup's fine. I don't hate Kispert, 4,300. Played 25 minutes last night. There's nothing else, though. I mean, I guess Thaddeus Young would be, if he like randomly gets a start, which, everything's on the table with Phoenix.
Sure.
I think. If Thaddeus Young were to randomly get a start, then maybe. And shout out, you know what, John? Just moment of silence for our boy Alexei Pokashevsky, who was released today waived. Just 3K. He's still listed in a Thunder uniform here. Just want to give have a moment of silence for Pokashevsky. And the card that you sent me that's sitting right above my desk that hopefully one day retains its value when he inevitably goes to Charlotte and averages 30 points.
Instant impact rookies right there. Penny Prism. All right, let's go to center then. Şengün's your top price center on DraftKings.
His position sucks. Yeah. It sucks.
You got him. You got Bam. You got Holmgren, Jared Allen. What are we doing at center tonight? Because this looks a little gross.
Bam is definitely more interesting if Hero is out. The Heat have some like crazy statistic. If one of their like quote big 3 is out, they're like dominant. Okay. And if all 3 of them play, they lose a lot. So if Hero's out, I'm good with getting to Bam. Chet obviously has as good of a matchup as it's going to get facing Washington front court. He's been really good of late. My only problem with Chet a lot of this year has been the low 30s minutes versus like you can play guys for cheaper that have infinitely higher minute ceilings. Like we can play Evan Mobley at center for $600 cheaper, possibly without Donovan Mitchell. And we just saw Mobley play 34 minutes after a minutes limit restrict. Like Chet, like once since January has he played more than 35 in a non-overtime game. That's ridiculous, right? Like, I get it. I'm not saying ridiculous in like Dagnall doesn't know what he's doing. He's about to win Coach of the Year, but like, or contend for Coach of the Year. But like, Chet at 76, I think the minutes kind of cap his ceiling. I see Jared Allen getting a lot of ownership. He was good last night. He does see a boost without Donovan Mitchell. I would rather play Evan Mobley for $100 cheaper, but I'll just play the lower end of the two. I don't have much interest elsewhere, John. It's really I built the lineup on the podcast last night with Ivica Zubac at 5,400. They lifted his minutes restriction. He played 29 minutes yesterday due to the blowout. Double-double for a second straight game, 38, 32 fantasy points in each of those two games. And we've talked about it since Memphis shifted to this Jaren Jackson center lineup. He can't play center. Like, he is not a traditional center. That is why they have long used him as a center. That's why Team USA got blasted on the glass by teams they should not have lost to because Jaren Jackson was their center. He's just a power forward through and through. And as long as he's going to continue to be run out there as their center, even if Trey Jemison playing backup 5, like, give me Zubac all day long in that matchup, 5,400. He's just underpriced. He's a 6K play that
does he have any limits on the back-to-back here, do you think?
I mean, they lift restrictions, so we'll see. Obviously, that would hurt if he did. But even if he played somewhere like he's done the last two games, 28, 29, I'd be literally perfectly fine with it if we continue to get the production that he put up in those two games. He's my per dollar favorite Clipper of the day.
Okay. Anybody else?
I mean, I guess it depends on your opinion on Bruno Fernando minutes. That's really what it comes down
to. Well, we got the Capella 20, so I mean.
No, I know. We've seen Jalen Johnson play center. Mm-hmm. We've seen Fernando was good. He was pretty good in that game. He just had foul trouble. He played 26 minutes. He's before that 17 was his cap. He's also not $3,600 anymore. So it all depends on your taking to the Fernando. Who's the highest rostered center here? Jared Allen. Oh, Eubanks. Duh. I'm a little indifferent about Eubanks here, John. I don't know what your feeling is. He started the last game that Nurkic sat, and he played 29 minutes. He had 21 fantasy points, which would be more than okay at 3,700. I'm just unsure about him with Thad Young and Royce O'Neal in town now. Like, if that's even a necessity. Do they need to go Drew Eubanks 29 minutes? Probably not. They don't even go Yusuf Nurkic 29 minutes half the time. So I don't know. Eubanks is the second highest rostered center of the day. I get he's 3,700, but he's just not. It just doesn't get the juices flowing, John.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm in agreement with you on that one. All right, let's build a lineup then. Where are we starting things tonight?
Before that, I wanted to go back to the comment from OS. He asked about Devin Vassell. He is the highest rostered player on FanDuel tonight. He also made the playbook, which I did include a FanDuel breakdown as well in the core play section. And the player grids live as well if you want to get my thoughts on FanDuel. I like Devin Vassell quite a bit. 6,800. He had a season high in points last night. He went nuclear. And the one thing we've said about the Lakers defense all year long is that they can't defend the 3-point line. Mm-hmm. So Devin Vassell, very good 3-point shooter. This is a good spot for him. So yeah, I like Devin Vassell quite a bit. 6,800. And then there was the comment about DeLon Wright, I think from Hassan, said something. So I think Miami's in an interesting place because they don't really have, who would be their point guard if Tyler Hero doesn't play? Jimmy? You just start Jimmy at point guard in that instance because Rozier's out, Josh Richardson's out, Drew Smith, who was their backup point guard's out. They signed Alondas Williams to a two-way deal. I don't even know if he's with the team today per 530 injury report. Alondis Wright, he's actually with the team. So they have Alondis Williams and DeLon Wright as their two like official point guards. If DeLon Wright were to start 3K, I would play some DeLon Wright. Just gonna throw that out there, but he would have to be starting.
He's 3,700 on FanDuel. I mean, that'd be a pretty decent value to get to.
Like it's obviously like he fits the Miami. Like he's like the perfect fit for Miami in general. I think DeLon Wright just kind of got lost in the shuffle in Washington this year, unfortunately. But if Hero's ruled out, they said he's a game time decision, so we're unsure what's going to happen. If Hero were to be ruled out and DeLon Wright starting, I'd be okay with it. Other than that, I probably don't go there, Hassan. But if DeLon Wright is in fact starting in his debut, then obviously something we take a look at.
Sure. All right, then. Do you want to build a lineup now?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to circle back to those two comments.
That's fine. What's our initial plug for today? We still haven't gotten to let them know. It's almost 6:00.
Ooh, that's brutal. So I think if that's going to be the case, I mean, we're just plugging Garland Mobley, right? And we're just kind of moving on from there.
I think so.
If we haven't got to let them know, we're an hour and a half away from the game. Like we're getting
Mobley at center or power forward.
That depends on your take on Zubac. You didn't seem too thrilled
I'm
because
fine
the back-to-back.
5,400. No, he's definitely a good enough price value, so that's fine. Him there, Mobley here, 6,200. We probably got to go some of the Phoenix plays here.
Yes,
right.
Gordon.
Gordon, definitely Gordon or O'Neal for sure. That's what I was thinking.
I went Trae Young at guard.
Okay.
I've obviously been high on Trae this whole show.
Yeah, 6,500 for Ford and a util. Batum now a game time decision, by the way.
Yeah, he was listed questionable. Obviously, that would make things easier on the Philly rotation because Anthony Melton still on track to make his return as well. So, so the Capella, Quinn Snyder said 16 to 20, 18 to 22. So floor of 16, ceiling of 22.
If he plays the 22, he probably gets over the 8.5. But if maybe I'll just bet the under. I don't like betting unders, you know that, but I mean, like is he going to grab 9 rebounds in 16 minutes? I guess he could.
He very well could. He very well could in a fast-paced game. And if he plays 22, you're probably dead.
I'm cooked. Yeah. I threw Herb in here at $4,800.
Okay. I mean, there's obviously like you could realistically just do Herb Zion, and then we can pivot. Like if like that's a scenario where Ingram's out, and then if Ingram's in, we pivot to like DeAndre Hunter.
We actually have the money to play Ingram.
Yeah, I mean, then play
Zion if it ends up being the other way around.
Yeah, then plug Ingram, and then you can pivot to like Hunter Butler or Hunter Zion, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. Trey Murphy, and Zion, right? Like there's a bunch of different routes.
Yep. So Garland, Gordon, O'Neal, Mobley, Zubac, Trae Young, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram. Just an example for everybody here on a lineup. Again, 7:30 roster lock. Get in the Discord. Still haven't gotten to let them know. So probably no Donovan Mitchell here tonight, but we'll look for the official information. Should be coming out around 7 o'clock because these teams have to give it out 30 minutes beforehand. Have a good weekend, everybody. Of course, we'll have the playbooks throughout the weekend. We'll be back with our shows on Monday. So make sure you like and subscribe. Tune in. We'll see you then.